Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can configure your PFsense to Azure via site-to-site VPN. So let's dive into it. I'm going to go over the network topology quickly. We have server 2022 running in our Azure network at the following IP address, 10.90.0.4. We have Plex server running at my home and a workstation connected on the server VLAN. Everything connects to the managed switch, and PFSense is the gateway for everything. And we are going to connect our PFSense over site to site to our Azure network so that they both networks can communicate with each other without any issues. So let's get started. First thing, obviously, you want to log into your Azure account and create a resource group. I'm going to assume that you have already installed the virtual machine and a resource group might have already been created. So I'm going to start off with creating a Azure Virtual Network Gateway. So search for Virtual Network Gateway. And we're going to create a Virtual Network Gateway. I am going to call it VNet, or just call it Azure VNet. Region West US 3, VPN route base generation 2. I'm going to select my existing virtual network. This is the virtual network where my Windows server is running. And we are going to have to create a new public IP address. We can't use an existing one because I actually have an existing one created for virtual network, but when you create it for the first time, you would only have one public IP, which is assigned to your virtual machine. So I'm going to create a new one in here. Just call it VPN public IP. Just going to select one and review and create. Let it validate. Now, this process, according to Microsoft and from my previous experience, it does take some time, anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes for the virtual network creation. So once this is deployed, I'm going to come back and proceed with the further setup. All right, so our deployment is complete. It took about 30 minutes to finish. Next thing we're going to do is create a local network gateway. It looks like I already have it created from my previous testing, but I'm going to create a new one here. Okay, we're going to select the same resource group, so I want everything in the same place. I'll leave West US 3 as my region. I'm going to call it PFSense. It can't be capital. IP address, this is going to be my public IP address at my home. So I am going to copy and paste that. Address space is going to be the range within my home network that I want it to be accessible. So I just want my server VLAN to be accessible. So I'm going to add 10.37.0.0/20 and review plus create. And once it's reviewed, we're going to click create. And this should take about a few seconds to complete. As you can see, deployment is in progress. While this is deploying, we're going to go back to our virtual network gateway here and click on it. And we're going to click connections. We're going to add connection. I'm going to call it site to site, or just call it site to site. Whatever you want to call it, really. This is just a description. PFsense. Connection type is going to be site to site. Local network gateway is going to be the one that we just created, PFsense home. Shared key. Shared key can be anything random. It's sort of like a password. You obviously don't want to share it with anybody. So I'm just going to create a random password here. Just call it Paris with a capital P and A 2022. Leave this at IKEV2. Click OK. We're not going to use BGP. I'll make another video about it. Right now, we're just going to go ahead with the defaults. Click OK. And we just got to wait for the connection to be created. We can see the notification here once it's successfully created. And click refresh. It seemed to have been created now. Okay. Next, we're going to go to our PFsense to configure the other side. All the Azure stuff has been configured. Let's go to our PFsense, log in, go to VPN, IPsec, and we're going to create a first tunnel. So add phase 1, and I'm going to call it Azure. Leave it at IKEV2. Remote gateway. Now, remote gateway, this is the IP address of your virtual network gateway at Azure. We can retrieve it by going into our Azure Virtual Network, click on Overview, and you will see the public IP over here. You can copy that, go back to your PFSense, Remote Gateway. We will paste it. We're going to leave mutual pre-shared key, my IP address as the identifier. Peer identifier can also be the same peer IP address. Pre-shared key is the one that we set up, which was PARIS2022. AES, I prefer 256 with SHA-256. And DH group, it was not working with 14, so I had to select 2. And we're going to set it to 2. Click on save. We're going to create another entry for phase 2. This is where we specify our network, the local subnet, and the remote subnet. So click on add phase 2. We're going to call it Azure P2. We're going to go to our local network. This is the network that we want Azure to have access over site to site. So in this case, this is going to be my server's subnet, which is my server VLAN. And I'll go to remote network. And this is going to be my remote network, which is 10.90.0.0/20. This is the network right here. This is what we're trying to connect. This is our server VLAN. So let's go back. Let's go to our PFSense. This can be 256. Log in. This can be 128. Go to PFS key group. It doesn't matter. You can keep it at 14. And we're going to click save. Oh, it looks like we did not assign an IP. Oh, so we made a mistake here. We have to specify a network, which we kind of did correctly, but /20 needs to go and /20 needs to be set here. And then we can click save. And I'm going to click apply changes. And we can see it's configured. So let's go to our status of IPsec. And it may take a few seconds to connect. I'm going to restart the service. Or you can just click on connect P1 and P2S. As you can see, it has been established. Now we have access to our Azure network over site to site. I'm going to do a quick test. You might want to do, so let's go to command prompt on this workstation, which is part of the server VLAN. and I'm going to try to ping 10.90.0.4. And as you can see, I can't ping it yet. And the reason for that is the firewall rule on the server itself needs to allow my home net or my server VLAN or my server subnet to be so that I can communicate. I'm going to log into my server hosting at Azure, and we're going to create a firewall rule so that it allows my 10.37.0.0/20 subnet. So I have RDP'd into it. Create firewall advanced security inbound. Click new rule. I'm going to create custom all programs any. And in the remote section, I'm going to add 10.37.0.0/20. I'm going to click next, allow for all profiles, and I'm going to call it PFsense _network. Finish. And if I minimize the session and try to ping it again, and it is still failing. And the reason for that is because on my computer, I have multiple network cards, and the network card that's taking precedence is not on the server VLAN. So the ping is going through my gaming VLAN, as you can see here. Let me open that, change adapter settings. This is the network card, as you can see. It's not on the 10.37 network. So I'm going to disable that. Alternatively, I can go into properties, go to IPv4 properties, click on advanced, and change this metric to something higher so that this network card does not take precedence over any other. But I'm going to leave that automatic, and I'm just going to disable this. Now, the only network card I have enabled is on my server VLAN. And now if I go back to ping it, 10.90.0.4, you can see I'm getting the response. So now that we're able to connect from our home network to our Azure VM, let's try to connect back from Azure to our home. So I'm going to go back to this VM, open CMD, and I'm going to try pinging my workstation that we were on, which is 10.37.0.98. And as you can see, it's not able to communicate. Let's see why. I'm going to cancel that. Let's go to minimize. We need to go to firewall, rules, IPsec, and we need to allow all IPsec traffic on our PFSense. So I'm going to click add. I'm going to allow any description. I'm going to call it S2S traffic. Save. And I am going to try to ping it again. It's still not doing it. And the reason for that, once again, is we have to do the same firewall setup on our Windows computer like we did on the Azure VM, and to allow the ICMP packets to flow through. So I'm going to go back, open my firewall here, click on inbound rules, click on new rule, custom, all programs, any, and the remote IP address is going to be my Azure VM subnet, which is 10.90.0.0/20. Click OK, next, allow, and I'm going to call it Azure Network, and finish. If I go back once again and try to ping, as you can see, we are successfully connecting. And I'm connected over WAN right now. So I'm going to close this session, and we're going to do a remote session through an internal IP address, which is 10.90.0.4. Connect, and RDP works from there. So Perfect. So now this is working. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Please comment if you have any questions or if you have any feedback. Also, it would be great if you subscribe to the channel. It would help me a lot to make this kind of content. And thanks for watching.